Okay, we're on page 465 to be exact. On verse 15. We're in the middle of the portion of Mishpatim. This is this week's Parsha. Chapter 22 of Exodus, verse 15. If a man seduces a virgin who is not betrothed and engages in carnal relations with her, he must marry her with a marriage contract. If she does not wish to marry him, or her father utterly refuses to give her to him in marriage, then the seducer must weigh out money according to the customary monetary settlement. A virgin owes 50 shekels. The point over here is that once someone, if you did that with a young woman, and you've caused her to be less desirable to other people. In other words, once she's already been with someone, she becomes less wanted for a marriage for someone else. So in those days, not to be married meant literally you didn't have a way to sustain yourself. There was no way you could survive, a woman. So marriage was an absolute necessity for a woman. Now you hurt her chances to get married. So the punishment is, a punishment, but you have to marry her. If she doesn't want, and she says, I don't, this is not who I want for a husband, then you pay her. 17, you must not allow a sorcerer or sorceress to live. He or she must be tried and executed by the court. Whoever engages in carnal relations with an animal must be tried by the court and put to death by stoning. This is a serious offense, obviously.
So we can kill most of the Arabs.
But they have relations with animals?
Arabs.
Why are they Arabs?
They like goats and sheep.
For this purpose? I never knew that. That's
serious?
Nah, come on.
I don't know what he's serious or not.
I don't know. That's not
very serious.
Really?
Wow.
They're famous for that.
Even today?
Even today.
We know that they're Mashega.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Today too?
We're live, so let's move on.
Today also.
Whoever engages, that we did. Whoever sacrifices, offers up incense, pours a libation or prostrates himself to idols must be tried by the court and put to death by stoning. So idol worship is a very serious offense as well. Such forms of service are permitted only to God alone. Serving an idol in other ways, such as sweeping the floor in front of it, kissing it, etc., is punishable by death only if this is the way that particular idol is normally worshipped. Otherwise, performing such an act is a non-capital offense and is punishable only by lashes. In other words, there's certain services that you do that no matter what, that is, if you do it to an idol, for example, you bow before it, you offer up incense before it, that is across the board, no matter any idol, no matter what the form of service that idol is customary for. But then there's other things that are done for specific idols. For example, there's some idols that you sweep in front of it. That's the service for that idol. So if you didn't do that, you did something else that is not customary, besides bowing then you're not liable to the death penalty, you get lashes. So in other words, there are 4 things that that apply to all idols. If you did them, you receive the death penalty. That is bowing, offering up incense, pouring libations, and offering up an animal before it. It's a sacrifice. A sacrifice. Those 4 things, any idol you do that to, you get that gets you a death penalty. But the other forms of service, kissing it. So there are certain idols that's the customary way to serve it. If you did that, then you get the death penalty. But if you did something, a type of service to a certain idol that is not the customary service, you kissed an idol which that's not the way to serve it. The way to serve it is by sweeping the floor in front of it, for example, then you're not liable to the death penalty. But those 4, bowing, as incense, libation, and offering a sacrifice, those four across the board. You do that to any idol, no matter if it's the order of service for that idol or not, you get the death penalty. It's clear? 20. You must not taunt a foreigner who has converted to Judaism or oppress him by robbing him of money. For you yourself were foreigners in Egypt, so he can easily taunt you back. Although it is forbidden to rob anyone, it is especially sinful to rob a convert. Because they're weak to begin with, they're till they get into the community and acclimated, so that they're on the they're vulnerable, more vulnerable. So the Torah is more strict in it. You must not cause pain to anyone, but particularly not to any person with limited means of defending themselves against you, such as a widow or an orphan. If you do cause them pain, you will certainly be held accountable. For if a widow or orphan will urgently cry out to me, I will certainly heed their cry and punish you measure for measure. I will display indignation and kill you by the sword, and there will be no witnesses to your death, so that your wives will have to remain widows, unable to remarry, and your children will remain destitute orphans, since they will be unable to inherit your wealth. What he's saying over here is Hashem is the punishment for causing pain to an orphan or a widow is so severe. Hashem is so vengeful about that he says, I will, if they cry out to me in pain because of what you're doing to them, you will get the death. I mean, Hashem, not by the courts, but Hashem will cause you death, but it'll be done in such a way where your wife and kids won't even know that there will be no proof that you died. What happens when there's no proof that you died? The wife can't remarry because she's technically still married. She doesn't know that her husband died, and the children can never liquidate the estate because the courts will not let children inherit their father's estate if they don't know for sure that the father died. So it'll be a double punishment. You won't be around, and they won't even be able to move on. That's how bad it is. When a fellow Jew asks you for a loan and you are able to lend to him, you must do so. Therefore, when you lend money, if you have to choose between lending to a Jew or to a non-Jew, you should lend first to your fellow Jew, for he is a member of my chosen people. Furthermore, if you have to choose between lending to a rich person or a poor person, you should lend first to the poor person. That's a counterintuitive. It goes against our nature, because you want a rich person you rely on more, that'll be able to pay you back, right? If you lend a poor person, the likelihood of him paying you back is less. But the Torah nevertheless says, if it's between a rich person and a poor person, you should lend first to the poor person, because he needs it more. If you have to choose between lending to a poor relative or another poor person, you should lend first to your poor relative. If you have to choose between lending to a local poor person or a distant poor person, you should lend first to the local poor, to the poor person in your locality. In any case, if the borrower cannot pay you back at the appointed time, you must not act toward him like a creditor, demanding payment, but rather act toward him as if he does not owe you money. Treat him respectfully, for he is still one of my people. Put yourself in his place. Furthermore, you may not charge him interest. The point of this verse is as follows. You always, they say charity starts at home. That's the point of this. That's what he's saying here. If you have a poor person in Weston, and you have a poor person in Miami, well, you live in Weston, take care of your poor first, your locale. Family and non-family, family. In other words, you gotta, the closest to you come first. Your family, your neighbor, your city, someone living in your city, those come first. Then you extend outwards. Get it?
Rabbi, if the person says, let me borrow some money, but I don't know when I'm going to pay you back, do you still lend to him?
If he says, I don't know, that means he's asking you for a gift, basically, for charity. It's almost like if someone says, I don't know when I'm paying you back. That's not a loan. What kind of loan is that? It's a gift. He's basically asking you for an indefinite gift. One day, hopefully, it's like, I hope I can pay you back.
Well,
That's not real. That's not
back,
serious.
I can't tell you when.
Give me a date by when for sure. I mean, what is it, a year, 5 years, 10 years? What does that mean?
So
I don't know when.
for that. Okay.
Yeah, you have to make terms. You can't. If not, it's tzedakah. Now, we do have an obligation to give charity. But charity is already according to your means. It's a little, it's different. Loans are also according to your means. If someone asks you a $10,000 loan and you don't have $10,000 loan, of course you can't give it to them. So obviously it's always according to your means, but a loan is a little less. People are easier to give a loan than to give a gift, but if the guy is telling you, I don't know when I'm going to be able to give you back,
It's good.
I never heard of anyone borrowing money that way. It's not a very smart way to borrow some money. You're not really giving him a reason to give you the loan. You know what I'm saying?
What you're doing here is you're helping out your brothers. And I think the example is, let's say, if you needed to borrow my donkey to plow your fields, I give it to you with love. You gotta give me my donkey back at some point. It's my donkey.
Right.
So it's the same thing with money, even though it's not a
100%.
physical object.
It is a physical.
Here, have money,
It is a
but
physical
do
object.
the right thing and give it back. You know what I'm saying?
But if he doesn't want to say when he's going to give it back, I don't think that's a loan that you should take very seriously.
So the same way, if I give you my donkey, you can't keep my donkey forever.
Right.
I give it back at some point. It's kind of like that.
You have to
I'm not
say
asking
when
you for money.
there
Don't
are
say
terms.
donkey,
You have to
because
make
donkeys
terms.
die.
So do people. It's easier to give back.
25. If when he does not pay you back at the appointed time, you repeatedly take your fellow man's day garment as collateral, you must return it again. If when he does not pay you back at the appointed time, you repeatedly take your fellow's day garment as collateral, you must return it to him every morning until sunset. You understand? You're taking something as a collateral, right? To make sure he pays it to you back. But the Torah is unbelievable. The Torah says if he needs that thing like it's his suit, so he wears a suit by day, you got to give it to him back by the morning, and then you can take it back from him when he goes to sleep. So, if he needs it, you can't really have it, But it is collateral, it's something. If for this alone is his outer cloak, or the inner garment for his skin. If you take his couch as collateral, you must also return it to him every morning. For if you do not, with what should he lie down to rest during the day?
That's a lot of work.
If you do not return these items, then when he cries out to me, I will listen, for I am compassionate. In other words, you have to give it to him back when he needs it. You can have it when they don't need it. You must not curse God or a judge, nor may you curse a leader of your people. In other words, the king or the head of the Sanhedrin, the high court. I will later command you to give the priests and Levites certain specific portions of your agricultural produce. Do not give these dues out of order. For example, you must not delay your tax of newly ripened first fruits, bikurim, by giving the priests their portion of the oil, your oil, wine, and grain, the truma first. Nor may you delay your truma by giving the Levites your tithes, the meiser, first. So you have to do in order. First bikurim, the first fruit. Then truma to the Kohen. Then the 10% to the Levite. This has to be in order. You can't do one before the other. As I've told you, you must present to me the firstborn of your sons and redeem them by giving 5 shekels to a priest, the Kohen, just as your firstborn sons are to be redeemed only after they are 30 days old. Oh, so you're saying just as your firstborn sons are to be redeemed only after they are 30 days old, you must do likewise with your ox and your flocks. Give your firstborn oxen to the priest only after they are 50 days old, and your firstborn sheep and goats only after they are 30 days old. If you are a priest and you take a firstborn animal from a lay Israelite before the specific time, in other words, before the 30 or 50 days, and you wish to offer it up as a sacrifice, it must remain with its mother for 7 days, and only on the 8th day or later must you give it to me. In other words, you can't bring a sacrifice before the animal is 8 days old. You must be a holy people. You must be holy people unto me. You must therefore not eat the flesh of an animal that were not ritually slaughtered, nor of animals that were fatally wounded in the field or anywhere else, even if they were ritually slaughtered before they actually died. That he's talking about over here, a treif animal, which is if the animal was mauled by another animal. For example, a wolf mauled a goat, a sheep, which is a kosher animal, right? And it caused him injury, but such an injury that it wouldn't survive a year, it would die within the year. And then you went ahead and slaughtered the animal before it died, the proper way. That animal can't be eaten. It's called treif. That's what a treif animal is. And what happens every time when you go to a kosher slaughterhouse today, there are two religious people involved in the koshering of that animal. One is the shochet, the one that slaughters the animal with his knife, the proper way of slaughtering the animal. After the shochet is done, there's a bodek. A bodek is someone who checks the animal to see if it is healthy. Because if it's not a healthy animal, then you can't eat it, even though it was slaughtered properly. How do you measure the health of an animal? If you can determine that it would die within the next 12 months, this is a not-kosher animal. How did they check it? They check the lungs for perforations, all kinds of things. There's many aspects to check. After the shechita. Yeah, after the slaughter.
But before, how do you know?
You don't. You have to check it. Similarly, you must not eat flesh that was torn off a live animal, off live animals by beasts. That means like this. Why you're saying, you're making with you. But if they think about it, if an animal rips off a leg from a goat, from a sheep, you take that leg and you roast it. It's like a piece of meat. What is it? It's just a piece of meat. You're not allowed to do that. The animal has to be slaughtered before it can be eaten, even though the rest of the animal is alive. You wouldn't eat such an animal, right? What?
I don't like this subject.
Why not?
I agree with you.
Why don't you? What's the issue?
I'm a duck lover, I'm an animal lover.
Okay. So you don't eat animals, eat meat even after they're slaughtered properly.
Continue, Rabbi.
If you do not refrain from eating such meat, I will not consider you holy unto me. You may derive any other benefit you wish from such meat. You're allowed to sell it, but you can't eat it. But you should preferably cast meat of a fatally wounded animal to the dogs. They obeyed my command not to wet their tongues against you when you left Egypt, and this will be their reward. It's an amazing concept. Hashem takes care of the reward even of animals. They were quiet when the Jews left Egypt. They didn't bark at them. So Hashem rewards them now that if you have an animal that is not kosher for you, instead of selling it to a non-Jew who's allowed to eat such an animal, give it to the dogs. They deserve a reward for what they did. That you like, huh?
I feel better.
Okay.
I'm a dog lover, so.
Yeah. Okay, we'll stop here.